This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trend in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your very first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which restores moisture and elasticity to your skin. Remember, your 15% discount is good on any of their products. Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me on my Today show. What is normalcy? Now, I want you to close your eyes. Got them closed? I want you to imagine you are back in the days of your childhood. Watch yourself playing with your friends and your family, riding bikes, roller skating, playing ball, maybe learning a new musical instrument. Now open your eyes and look at what's happening today. Are we responsible for this? Are we responsible for people going out and killing others? Are we responsible for the violence and crime going on? I don't think so. I think we're all just responsible for ourselves and what we teach our children, or rather what the schools are teaching our children. You know, I think there's a lot of reasons that normalcy is leaving of what we thought of normalcy in family life, growing up in the late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even. I don't know when it started to change. Maybe our generation of the baby boomers is responsible for some of this. And the normalcy that we used to see at the family dining together, the family playing together, the grandparents living close by, the aunts and uncles living close by, and being able to run outside and not come back in until the streetlights went on. We felt safe. But then there came a time where even with us, we were having bomb drills in school. We were crouching underneath our desk, putting our hands over our head and our back ends in the air. I had never liked that. If we didn't get under our desk and we had time to evacuate, where did we evacuate to? We went into the hallway. We lined up against the walls. We sat cross-legged, and then they'd come and tell us, okay, cover up. So you'd put your head down next to the wall. What about these kids in Israel that they had no time to protect themselves? They couldn't even get into their bomb shelters. I hope none of you are allowing your children or your teenagers even that are in high school, or maybe they're coming home from college. Those people should watch these terrible, horrendous psycho killings and maiming and torturing of the people in Israel and the Gaza Strip. I can't even imagine people killing babies and children and doing it with their parents, holding them and then killing the parents, chopping their heads off, raping little girls. The one picture of that poor young woman being pulled out of the back of an SUV, and you can see the blood and everything all over her from being raped repeatedly by Hamas. Repeatedly. They probably picked her up at what they're calling a rave. I don't think it was exactly a rave. It was a big music festival. And they came in and they shot and killed people. It's just horrendous, and I don't want to dwell on it. What I want to talk about is normalcy. What's normal for you now? Because life has changed in big ways, in big matters. I don't think that we hated each other as much when we were growing up. But there was the Holocaust, and nobody spoke up and said to stop it. They let it just happen. They let Hitler come in and become a dictator. They actually voted him in. Didn't you see what he was doing and what he was trying to do and the people he put in high positions of power? Did any of you speak up? You know, I have to tell you, a lot of you think it was just the Jews that Hitler killed. It wasn't. It was people who had disabilities, physical disabilities, mental disabilities. They might have been gay. They might have been artists. They might have been teachers. He killed anybody that he wanted to. He did horrible scientific experiments with his doctor Frankenstein, I'm going to call him because I can't think of his name right now. Horrible things. And what did we do afterwards? Yes, sure, we had the trials at Nuremberg. But did it stop anything? I don't know, because it seems that anti-Semitism continued to grow in the United States and in other countries, even after the war. So to me, this is just hate. And it moves from place to place, and it has changed the normal life that we live. Look what has happened. Families don't have dinner together all the time anymore. Kids have sports that go on, and bless the coaches that get out there and help them. Many of them have careers, jobs, including mothers. And the only time that they can really get out there and coach the kids, do after school sports and weekend sports and have the training is to do it during the dinner hour. So we see our kids eating a McDonald's in the back seat, or they're going home and the mother or the father is cooking dinner for them at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. That is not normal. Well, at least it's not what everybody thinks is normal. But everybody has a different normalcy in their life. And sometimes you have little blips that come along and interrupt what you think is your peaceful life. And those are little blips that can be handled very easily. But then enormous problems pick up, and you see them on the television or on the internet. And I'm talking about the news and what's going on. You know, we have several big enemies right now here in the United States. We have North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia. Did I leave anybody out? Russia. Putin. I shouldn't say Russia because it's a different country nowadays, as he wants to make it like it was the old imperial Russia and grab the land. And that's what's going on in Ukraine right now. So we have always been in favor of democracies. I don't think every country can be a democracy. And sometimes it holds things up. So this is not normal either. Was it normal not to have a Speaker of the House of Representatives for so long? Now, this is the two-party system here, although we have some pretty strong third parties popping up. It's impacting everyone's life because now we're talking about what we were talking about during the Cuban Missile Crisis. This isn't the first crisis we've had in this country concerning war. I would say it is much bigger and much more important than others, because now almost everyone has a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon. You won't have time to run to a bomb shelter, and most people don't have them. In Israel, they do have bomb shelters because they have forever, for 47 years, been living under the threat of war, even though they have occupied this land off and on since before biblical times. So what happens when you have these frightening things in your home? What happens to your normalcy of getting up in the morning and having breakfast with your kids and rushing around to get ready to go to school and go to your jobs? What happens? You're afraid to go out because now there's a crazed person running around shooting everybody in bowling alleys and clubs and bars everywhere. What is going on? How do you handle this in a normal life? Do you stay locked into your house and just tell your kids, even your teenagers, oh, well, we have another crazed gunman out there and we have to stay in the house today. Stay away from the windows. Keep the doors locked. But do you honestly think that somebody with an automatic weapon can't get into your house? Do you have a basement you can hide in, like some of these Israelis that were in Gaza and in Pakistan? Because I don't know who rules what anymore. Hamas got into everybody. They shot the doors down, they got into the basements, and they killed people and tortured them there too. It's a terrible world we're living in. On the other hand, you've got to go on with what you call your normal life. There are many good things going on in our life, and you have to concentrate on that. You have to take care of yourself. But I'm telling you that during this time, you must have alternate plans. Now, I'm not just talking about during the dangerous time of the Third World War or what may happen getting us closer to one, and hopefully and prayerfully we hope that that will not happen. I'm talking about things that might change your sweet little calm life. Maybe you don't have a calm life. Maybe it isn't sweet. Maybe you don't enjoy it, but it's become your normalcy because you have a routine and you have certain people in your life. But what happens when you go and you have something changing that? What happens when you suddenly find your kids not being able to go to school because they're not opening school that day because there's a shooter out there? My grandkids that are 5 and 9 know what it is to go to school and have lockdowns. They live in a very quiet oceanside town in above the Los Angeles basin. But they've already had lockdowns up there. Why? Because something happened at the high school. So they locked down all of them. Now, there shouldn't be anything like that going on in this community. There shouldn't be any of it going on anywhere in any community. But that kind of major big deal thing disrupts your normal life. So what are your plans? How are you going to deal with this? How are you going to keep your kids calm, your partner calm? How are you going to get on with your life? Go to work, find a new job. Check your bank balance because we're living in a time of terrible inflation. Don't tell me there isn't any inflation because where I live, gas is still nearly $7 a gallon. Now, I know there are people in our area that this is cutting into their budget so much that they're also looking at their food budgets. Where they used to take their kids to McDonald's, it's now $13 or $14 to get both kids a Big Mac and a drink, or maybe more. Sometimes I sneak in there and get my French fries. Don't tell anybody. So, this is craziness. It's also crazy to have a minimum wage to hire somebody to put the soda in your glass at $25 an hour. This is what has happened in this country. So many people didn't have jobs during COVID, but when they went back, they asked these small businesses and franchise businesses and all to raise their wage. That's because they can't live with this inflation that's going on in this country. Everybody in this country isn't well off. We like to portray the United States as a free country, as a democracy. Well, democracy kind of failed for several days there when we couldn't elect a speaker. Let me tell you, we're in trouble. Your normal life, where you have a routine and you expect certain things to happen, is no longer. So, is this our new normalcy? What caused it? Not only was it watching television, but I think there's a lot of people out there who were playing video games that were violent. How many video games are there out there that are not violent, where you're not trying to kill the most people? Maybe you remember Pac-Man. Even Pac-Man, if you look at it, was violent. The little Pac-Man went around eating people. Well, that was a lot less stressful and a lot less detrimental to people's minds than going out and seeing how many people you can kill with automatic weapons or Dragons and Dungeons, something like that. I think video games and the internet and all have really helped our society in many, many ways. It's been a wonderful boon during COVID when the kids had to could not go to school and were learning at home. But you know what? A lot of those kids were not being watched while they were on the internet and supposed to be doing their schoolwork. How many of them tuned out, even though they still had it on part of their computer? You know, you can open separate windows on your computer. How many of them were then tuning in on their phone or a different channel and doing the video games while they were supposed to be learning something? But being locked up at home certainly interrupted normalcy in your house, didn't it? Who was supposed to stay home and watch these kids? Make sure that they were learning. Make sure that they were safe, that nobody was trying to break into the house. A lot of them were left by themselves. I remember when my kids were growing up and they were in elementary school and then what we call junior high, but it was middle school. They were called latchkey kids. If they were dropped off by a school bus and told to go inside and lock the door, and they were supposed to behave themselves, get a snack and do your homework. My kids, fortunately, never had to live through that. I was always there, but I was fortunate to own my own company and be able to be home. And as they got older, they had after-school sports and all, and I was still there for them. But not every mother can be, and not every father can be, and I certainly understand that. And that's why I'm an advocate for better childcare after-school programs that do not cost you quite literally an arm and a leg to put your kids into it. I've been looking at a lot of these things. What is normal about that, having to pay school systems for after-school programs that cost so much money that it ends up that the parent is really not making any money to go fight inflation and keep the budget for the food and the transportation and anything else? And you know, one of the first things that go, participating in after-school sports that play on the weekend. What does that do to the normalcy of childhood? They no longer have this interaction with their friends, just like they didn't have it during the COVID lockdowns. People can't grow and learn and develop intellectually without being around other people. I don't think a lot of people understand how much people are paying out there, parents are paying out there for childcare assistance. Now, I'm not talking about welfare people and people that can't find a job and the honest people that are having a problem finding a job, the people that do need a little hand up, not a handout. I'm talking about honest to good people who've had a rough time, and whether their jobs were eliminated because the small businesses were put out of business during COVID by some of the rules and regulations that have gone on. I'm talking about some of the people that could be listening now. They could be at home. They could be trying to learn something on their computer, trying to improve their lot in life by getting some education and skills that they don't have. So that all disrupts your normalcy of life. What can you do about it? Well, one of the things you can do about it is discuss it with your friends, your neighbors, and how you can help each other, what their plans are. What are your plans if this continues to go on in the Middle East? To me, it's terrifying that some of our politicians still think that they should be doing business with China, for instance. The CRP, the Communist Party in China, is trying to take over the United States. And if you don't think that's true, look at all the land they have bought, the farmland in the northern states in the middle of the country, the balloons that came over here. Our administration seems to think there's nothing wrong with their weather balloons coming over here. Not true, in my opinion. How did they get over here? Why are we giving money to these people? Now, I'm trying not to be political in this because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to switch you from one party to the other or not. And I'm not a one-party gal. Of course I am, so I can vote in the primaries, but I have never voted a straight ticket. And if you feel like that, you shouldn't either. The problem right now is the administration and our leader, our commander-in-chief, the president, and some of his cronies. We seem to be mixing up everything that's going on. There seems to be quite a bit of corruption that is shocking to people today. It's just come out that the FBI has been looking at the Bidens forever and have never reported it. That's craziness. It's unbelievable to me. This is an organization, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, that is supposed to be keeping us safe and telling us what's going on in our country. Well, guess what? We need Elliot Ness back, because I'm sorry, but now that these field agents, 40 agents that were investigating Biden, I think the corruption has gone all the way down to some of the people walking the streets for us. Not all of them. I praise most of the FBI people, the FBI that's out there looking for this obviously psychotic shooter in Maine who's killed now so many people, and he's still on the loose, on the run. But I don't understand why people have different levels of treatment for alleged crimes. I don't understand why Hunter Biden gets by with selling paintings to ostensibly Chinese oligarchs, or whatever you want to call them. That's in Putin's Russia, the oligarchs, but may as well be in China and everywhere else. Why do they get special treatment? Why doesn't Hunter have to tell where the money came from? Why does Biden not have to explain where $200,000 written on a check that you can see on the internet? Why does he get by with this? And apparently this goes back to his days of being in Congress and as a vice president. Why have we not heard more about the swimmer who died at the Obama estate? I'd like to know more about that. They called some people to come rescue him, but said they didn't need a boat, they just needed a recovery. I don't get that either. That is a mystery. Why is it that the Clintons Foundation has never been investigated? They sure investigate a lot of the Republicans. And look at how many were sentenced to prison. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You can send it to my personal email, judithmancini@mac.com. You tell me all the Democrats that have ended up being investigated and put in prison. Let's not even get into J6. There are people there that have been imprisoned and are still there with no trial. Nothing. Solitary confinement. What is going on in this country? Is this normal? I don't think it's ever been normal in my time. What about yours? Well, I'm rattling on about normalcy. What are we going to do? That's what I want to know. Well, for one thing, I'm moving. My husband and I are moving. We've had it. We've had it with this lovely little area we live in that is slowly becoming victim to crime. I think I've mentioned before on the show that up in the little shopping area that's quaint by us, it's not safe to go up there anymore. I think I told you. I was going to say a little old lady in her 70s, but it wasn't me. There are other little old ladies besides me that still go out. She was mugged and her handbag was stolen and she tried to fight back, but fortunately some people came to her aid and they kind of cornered the guy with their cars and he was arrested. The police got there in time to arrest him. Now the police here are very fast to respond and you hear sirens all the time, which is unusual in a residential area. But part of it's teenagers getting cars so early, and I'm guilty. Mine both got a car when they were 16, partly because they went to school so far from our home, and it relieved me to let them go, and I could go to my office earlier. And it takes a load off the parents because you can give them things that they're supposed to do with their car besides go out and have fun. And I would say that they should be paying some of the expenses of the car. That's normal in some neighborhoods, but in some neighborhoods, it's not normal at all to have a car. And these kids now are forced to get on buses and go to their schools. But what isn't normal is it's no longer safe. There are so many places in our country that are struggling with crime, and nothing can be done about it. I don't understand this. Of course, when they have people rioting in the streets and saying, kill the pigs, burn the police stations down, defund the police, what do you expect? Our police work very hard to protect us. Sure, like the FBI, some of them fall to corruption, probably because people want to defund them and they don't pay them enough for the ghastly jobs they have to do walking into some dispute where they may get shot and killed. Look how many police have been shot sitting in their car, doing nothing, waiting, maybe for a traffic stop. It's become a really crazy country. This is not the country that we grew up in, and we're told we are the greatest country in the world. Well, in my opinion, there is no country greater than the United States of America, but we don't want to lose it. And if our normal lives have to change a bit, then I say get aboard and help us save the country. If your normal life has to change and you need to move, it's not fun sometimes. My move is by choice. But I've had to move several times with my husband when he was turning countries. I always say that, turning countries around. Oh, didn't you know he did that? Turning companies around after he retired. And he was hired to go in and turn these companies around. And he was usually signed to a 3-year contract. So, of course, he wanted me with him and I wanted to be with him. So I would go off, pack the house up, move to someplace. And lo and behold, he was very good at his job. He knew how to turn those companies around. Now, he was a retail specialist. So he had developed a plan in his head how he could turn all these different companies around. And he's a genius with retail and math, if I do say so myself. So often he'd do it in a year, and he didn't want to be there for 3 years. So he would find the person to put in his place. He'd already maybe made some replacements, maybe not, but it disrupted our lives. Whatever you say about his success in business, it also was such a fabulous thing, but it disrupted our normal life because as soon as we made friends and started entertaining or were entertained by others, we were ready to go again to the next assignment. That's kind of like military life, I think. So if you're in that kind of position, it is hard, but guess what? It's your normal life. It's part of your normal life. So you have tricks of how you become acclimated to your new area and how you pack up your house with the movers and how you make new friends and how you find the pharmacy, how you find the post office, how you find the best school for your kids to go to, and you look at all of that before you buy the house or rent the apartment. You check out the school districts and all of that. And that may be normal to you all the time, but there might be those of you that it's not normal for you to move, and you've lived in the same house for 50 years or more. Well, that's difficult to make those kind of decisions. And sometimes what is normal is painful. So, what is normal? What's normal for you? Is it normal to not have your family nearby? Is it normal to rely on your friends? I don't know. You know, some of these changes, this is what happens when you experience some of these things that interrupt your normalcy and you have to find a new normal in your life. First, you get anxiety, and that can be a horrible thing. Anything can cause anxiety that disrupts your life. Losing a loved one, losing a best friend, losing your job. Anything can cause anxiety, but one of the biggest things that causes anxiety and depression is a major change in your life that you're not expecting. And I'm talking about losing a job. Anything in your life that you do as a routine and it suddenly isn't there for you anymore. And you experience depression. You need then to take some time to yourself and see how you can figure out to get back to some kind of a normalcy in your life. And maybe it's because the school in your new area or your school in your same district and your kids are going on to the middle school. Maybe the school starts at a different time. And that disrupts your schedule and your normalcy. When you have breakfast, when you get up, when you get ready for work, when you get ready for school, when you do homework, when you play the sports, when you see your girlfriends or your guy friends, all of it is difficult. And the most important thing I can say to you to get through this is carve out a little bit of time for yourself so you can think about this and how you can get back to a more normal for you and your family, or you yourself, if you're living by yourself, how you can get back to that spot where you have a normal life. Now, I think some people are absolutely terrified about what is going on in our country these days. And I would classify this as a normal big deal. This is not normal to have all of these countries hating us the way they do and wanting to take us over. They want to take the position of being the biggest and the best country in the world. Well, I got to tell you, we're not going to give up easily. We're not going to be replaced as the best country in the world. Why do you think people are crossing that border? Well, some of them are coming across and have been discovered to be on the terror list. And some are coming across because they're being persecuted and prosecuted in their own lands. Most of them are coming here for a better life, a better economic life. All right. Now, all of you are talking about Mexico and how many people are coming over the southern border, which is open and has been open since President Trump left office. There are really so many reasons why this shouldn't be happening. Number one, if you don't have a border, you don't really have a country. If all your borders are open, anybody can come and go, and you're not an independent country. So quit pretending you are. So look at the border crossings, though. This is becoming so dire to our safety. I don't know why they are not doing anything about it. So now they're kind of looking at maybe rebuilding parts of the wall. Did you know that they've been paying, they, meaning government, the administration, has been paying to store all those portions of the wall that Trump had built to put in place, that Biden, on his first day after he was inaugurated, went in with a stack of executive orders, etc., and ripped them up and got rid of them. And then the border was open. Oh my gosh. What happened? All these people kept pouring into the country, and most of them in the beginning were looking for a better life economically. We've had people coming from Mexico to our country for years and years and years, and so many have been here. Their children are called dreamers because if they were born here, they could become a citizen. And if they weren't born here and came over here and were raised and worked in the fields and agriculture and all alongside their parents, who are now being paid mostly a living wage above what they were making in Mexico, they had a desire to be educated here and go to college here and have a life here. And I'm all in favor of letting them do that. What I'm not in favor of is having the cartels overtake the border and bringing in drugs, which many times come from China, to the cartels, which then kidnap the little kids, sell them into slavery, both boys and girls, take the drugs laced with fentanyl, and kill our teenagers and our young adults as they're taking drugs. Now, I'm not condoning drug use by our kids, but what's available and what is pushed on you, it's hard to resist when these people are hanging outside the schools with their drugs and telling them, oh, It's so wonderful to take this. You'll feel so good. There is a problem at our border. And now it's not only the cartels and the drugs, it is terrorists. And you can go on the internet and you can look up how many people have come in from states, government states, national states, nation states, that are on the terrorist watch list that they're interested in. They're in favor of Hamas. They're in favor of Iran, Hezbollah, North Korea, China. They're in favor of all of this. These people are coming from these countries now. They're coming over. We don't know what they're even bringing with them, because sometimes they are getaways, and there's so many getaways that some of them have been discovered to be terrorists, and we don't know where they're going. I would venture to say they're probably not on a bus that somebody's shipping over to New York, but who knows? Because they can get transportation anywhere. And ever since 9/11, you would think that everybody in the United States would want our country to be safe. This is not normal living for us in the United States. What is our normalcy going to be? You know, my husband and I were in Prague when 9/11 occurred, and these people were so kind to us, and we couldn't get home. We ended up staying in Prague for 2 or 3 days later, and we had planned on a 5-week trip in Europe, which of course was interrupted. And first of all, the people in Prague were so kind to us, and we were finally able to get an airplane into Venice, which was our next stop. It was just delayed for a while. So we got to Venice, and we were there when we continued our trip a couple days later to go to Paris. And in Paris, we ended up staying at a hotel that was owned by some Saudis that were not happy with anybody there, and they evacuated the hotel. They kicked everybody out, except for 2 couples. Us, who had just checked in, and our flight was delayed a day, and this other couple. We had dinner in the dining room that night, and we were escorted to our room upstairs by guards with some machine guns. They weren't guards from the United States, let's just say that. They stayed outside our room all night long. Well, we ended up being there 2 nights, and one night we were allowed to go out of the hotel, and we went to one of our favorite restaurants, and that was nice. But when we came back, it was the same thing. There was nobody in that hotel, just us. The next morning, we had a car and driver supposedly picking us up. It was already arranged, and we were going to get on a flight home. But it didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come. And I finally was able to make a call on their landline to this car company, and they said, well, it was there, but they sent it away. Well, we're not sure why they sent it away, because we were outside waiting. With that, this big white van with no windows in it except the front window and the rear window. These people, these guys with the big guns, threw our luggage into the van and practically threw us into the van. And at that point, we were both kind of wondering if we would even make it to the airport in Paris. Well, we did, and we got home, and our airplane was full of some Frenchmen and some people, men mostly, from other countries, and they were all flying to the United States to help us after 9/11. When we got to New York, the flags were flying from every building, from apartment buildings, co-op buildings, restaurants, department stores everywhere. They were on cars and taxi cabs. We stayed close to Central Park, and we walked to dinner to one of our favorite restaurants. But there was this horrible smell. This was like 5 days after 9/11, when something like that, when they had again allowed airplanes to fly into the United States and land. There was a terrible, terrible stink. And it was the chemicals, the materials from the Twin Towers, but the overlying stench was that of friends. We had a friend and loved ones who perished in the towers in 9/11. We don't want that to happen again. We never want it to happen. But what happened to the patriotism that was shown after 9/11? Where has it gone? Where has it gone to people burning in our own country the flag of the United States of America? Where has it gone when we have members of Congress flying the Pakistan flag in front of their congressional office? What the hell is going on? This is not our natural well-being. This is not it. What are we going to do? What are you doing? Are you speaking out? Is this going to be the new normal in the United States? Because I don't want it to be. I don't want the children to be going to school where they are taught to hate their own country, that gives them the freedom of going to school and getting an education. I don't want our young ladies not to be able to go to school or to have a job, a career, and raise children. I don't want people like Hamas and Hezbollah to behead us, to destroy our country. And I certainly don't want any of the other countries that have nuclear capability to dissolve us all. So when I'm talking about normalcy, let's get back to being the normal country we were, and being democratic and patriotic and speaking out and standing up for us and others' rights. Let's get rid of this hate that is growing and growing. Oh my God, I can't believe, excuse me for swearing, I can't believe what is going on in college campuses and university campuses. And you see these big donors taking their money away from Harvard and schools like that, that are just protesting. It's worse than it was with just defending and talking about BLM and Floyd. This is nothing like has ever happened in the United States before. Yes, we've had protests and all, but mostly they have been peaceful. We have had murders in our country of people that are innocent just because people hate them. We don't want hate crimes. We want to go back to a normalcy where people were trying to love each other and get along with each other. So don't let this be a terrible time in your life right now. Sit and try to talk to your friends. I didn't realize it, but I have some friends who are hiding what their true feelings are as they have gone through society and years of living here, being born here. I've been appalled at what some of my friends say. And to tell you the truth, I don't think I can continue our friendships unless they open their eyes and their hearts and realize we are all the same, no matter our race or religion or anything else. We're the same. We're human beings. What happened over there in the Middle East is going to continue happening unless we stop it. We need to stop it. In Ukraine, we need to help them, but we can't be sending our armed forces over there because I don't want to lose any more of our men. Let's see what we can do with the weapons and all. But I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be doing a show telling you about how we are down to the very bottom of our reserve oil. That's supposed to be for emergencies, and it's gone because no more drilling, no more looking for it. We are not energy independent. That's another show. So today, I keep telling you to stand up and speak out for what you believe is true. And let's try to return to a normalcy that is fair and loving to everyone. Black, brown, white, any color, yellow, red, whatever. Please, I pray to God, and I hope you will too, that we return to a normalcy of love and peace. Now, my friend Nancy Grando posted something from Martin Luther King Jr. on Facebook that I want to read to you before I sign off. And Martin Luther King Jr. said this: "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Those are wise words, and I urge you, speak up and stand up for our country, the greatest one on earth, the USA. Thank you so much for joining me today. Get back to normalcy and remember, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you.